What if the biggest cracks in one of reality TV's most famous families weren't just from old scandals, but from private messages that have only now come to light years later? Fresh details from inside prison walls are revealing deep tensions within the Duggar family, centered on how they have handled the long shadow of Josh Duggar's past. These newly reported communications show a son confronting his parents and siblings over perceived priorities, judgment, and what he sees as a lack of support during his darkest chapter. For a family that once projected unity and faith to millions of viewers, the revelations raise questions about loyalty, image, and the lasting impact of years of public scrutiny. Stick around as we unpack what these details actually say, who is involved, and why they matter now. The Duggar family first captured national attention through TLC's long-running reality series that followed Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar as they raised their large brood in Arkansas under a strict conservative Christian lifestyle. The show, which evolved into Counting On for some of the adult children, presented a picture of close-knit family life, courtships, marriages, and growing households. That image faced a major challenge in 2015 when reports surfaced detailing allegations that Josh, the eldest son, had inappropriately touched several underage girls years earlier as a teenager, including some of his own sisters. Jill and Jessa later identified themselves among those affected. The revelations led to the cancellation of the original series. Years later, in 2021, Josh was arrested and ultimately convicted on federal charges of receiving and possessing child sexual abuse material. He was sentenced in 2022 to more than 12 years in prison. Throughout these events, parts of the family maintained public silence or limited statements, while others, including some siblings, have spoken more openly in later years about the lasting effects. Against this backdrop of past controversies and ongoing legal consequences, newly surfaced private communications from Josh have brought internal family strains into sharper focus. According to exclusive reports from outlets including People magazine, texts and messages Josh sent to his mother Michelle around the time of his 2021 conviction and 2022 sentencing have recently been obtained and published. In one lengthy message written about a month after his conviction, Josh expressed frustration with how certain family members and close associates were speaking about him publicly while offering little private contact or support. He wrote that family members continuing to judge and condemn and saying hurtful things was hard to deal with. He claimed he received more compassion and love from strangers than from members of his own family and close friends. Josh described feeling still in shock at how judgmental some people could be, arguing that some showed less character than those outside their faith community. He pointed to what he saw as a lack of decency and respect for his wife Anna and their 7 children, who he said were struggling without him. In the same message, he accused some relatives of being willing to go to great lengths to help perfect strangers while failing to extend similar compassion to him and his immediate family. One striking line stated that even just staying quiet would have been preferable, but instead it felt as if they enjoyed it and had been waiting to ambush him. He also continued to maintain his innocence, saying he was working to forgive the person he claimed was responsible for the crime that led to his incarceration. In other messages sent after his sentencing, Josh directed sharper criticism toward his parents' handling of the situation. He told Michelle he was very disappointed and felt she did not receive criticism or take responsibility for actions that he said had directly affected his life. He insisted he was not blaming her for the situation itself but accused her of blaming him without knowing the full truth. Josh wrote that she did not understand how she had hurt him and continued trying to make the family look good rather than focusing on responses to his charges or other aspects of his life. He specifically referenced public statements and public relations efforts aimed at saving shows and public images, saying those efforts felt prioritized over family relationships both in 2015 and in the years that followed. He described the difficulty of being incarcerated while others continued with their lives, noting how hard it had been since the events of May 2015 devastated him and Anna. Michelle's reported responses included expressions of sorrow for what Josh, Anna, and the children were going through, though reports indicate she did not fully engage with every point he raised. These communications matter because they offer a rare window into the private dynamics of a family long defined by its public image. Josh's complaints highlight a perceived gap between the family's earlier emphasis on redemption, grace, and unity and the support he felt he received after his conviction. At the same time, it is important to note that these are Josh's own characterizations of events and relationships. The messages do not include detailed public rebuttals from every family member named or implied. Jim, Bob, and Michelle have previously issued statements expressing grief over Josh's legal situation while affirming their faith. Some siblings have maintained limited contact, consistent with earlier reports that only a small number reached out regularly in the period after his arrest. The timing of the messages' public release in 2026, years after they were sent, has renewed attention on unresolved questions about accountability, forgiveness, and the long-term effects of the family's high-profile history. While Josh continues efforts to appeal his conviction, the texts underscore how the consequences of his actions have rippled through relationships that were once presented as unbreakable. Public reaction to the newly reported messages has been mixed and reflective of the family's long and complicated history in the spotlight. Many online commentators and viewers who followed the original series expressed little surprise that tensions existed, pointing to years of public scrutiny and the gravity of Josh's convictions. Some social media discussions framed the texts as further evidence of a family struggling to reconcile private pain with past public messaging about faith and forgiveness. Others focused on the human element, noting the difficulty for any family facing incarceration and the impact on children. Media coverage has largely stuck to reporting the content of the messages and providing context from the earlier scandals, with outlets emphasizing that the communications reflect one individual's perspective. Fans of the family have offered varied takes, with some calling for privacy and others using the moment to revisit broader questions about how the Duggars handled earlier allegations. Across platforms, the conversation has remained grounded in the documented reports rather than escalating into unsubstantiated claims, though the emotional weight of the details has kept engagement high. Looking ahead, several developments remain worth watching. Josh continues his legal efforts related to his conviction and sentence, which has seen adjustments over time. His brother Joseph faces his own separate legal proceedings stemming from allegations that surfaced in 2026, adding another layer of public attention to the extended family. No major new public statements from Jim, Bob, Michelle, or most siblings specifically addressing the newly released texts have been widely reported as of the latest coverage. Any future court filings, family communications, or official responses could provide additional clarity. Viewers interested in the ongoing story will likely see continued coverage as these legal matters progress. The release of these private messages has brought into clearer view the personal fractures that can persist long after public scandals fade from daily headlines. What began as a reality television portrayal of a large, faith-centered family has, over more than a decade, confronted repeated challenges involving allegations, convictions, and the difficult work of navigating relationships under intense scrutiny. The texts attributed to Josh reveal his sense of isolation, his continued claims of innocence, and his belief that image sometimes outweighed family support. At the same time, the broader record shows a family that has responded in different ways, with some members stepping back, others offering limited statements, and a legal system delivering its own outcomes. These latest details do not rewrite the past, but they do illuminate how the consequences continue to shape private bonds. What are your thoughts on this latest Duggar family update? Share your opinion in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another Duggar family update.